Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Ditte Young, who's here to share with us a psychic medium's life journey. What can one woman's journey into psychic awareness teach us about listening differently? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Ditte Young is an internationally renowned telepath, licensed therapist, animal communicator, clairvoyant, intuitive coach, and best-selling author who has dedicated her life to expanding human understanding of consciousness, connection, and communication, both seen and unseen. Born with a rare sensitivity to the spirit world, Ditte possesses a unique ability to practice telepathy with remarkable speed and clarity. She has taught her methods to thousands of people around the world, helping individuals connect more deeply with themselves, their children, and their animals. Through her books and global work, Ditte continues to empower others to trust their intuition, understand behavior on a deeper level, and live more connected, authentic lives. So welcome to the show, Ditte Young.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, what a great honor it is to spend this time with you. I'm so excited that we get to have another discussion. Can you share, because we've talked about animal telepathy and how amazing the work it is that you do from a telepathic sense with animals. And also we've kind of touched on, but we haven't really dived into being telepathic with people who are nonverbal. But can you share with us how you first discovered your psychic abilities?
I discovered it when I was 4 years old, and I felt like the animals spoke to me or talked to me when I was in a room. I heard people's emotions. It felt like I heard the souls in there, even though I could look at them and see they're having a way different conversation than what is going on inside of my head. And even though it sounds almost like a schizophrenic diagnosis here, I knew that this was a spiritual realm, but I couldn't figure out what it was because I was so young. And that was the very first experiences. Then in school, I predicted or I saw that one of my friends' kid brothers would, yeah, it sounds rough, actually drown, and then he drowned. And I became very, very scared and afraid of these abilities because when you open for one ability like telepathy, in my case, you open for everything. You open up for clairvoyance and mediumship as well. So it took me quite some years to figure out how to shut it off.
Well, can you share a little bit how that early journey made you feel? Because I think you talk about being a little scared. I think anyone would be. You have all this information coming to you.
I think it was a very, very lonely ride, as many people who grew up when I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, where we didn't know about spirituality. Not in my country. I was the last generation before Wi Fi and the internet and a cell phone. So I couldn't Google because we didn't have Google. So I couldn't Google. Here we have a Rupert Sheldrake across the pond in the UK where I could have found help. So I felt pretty by myself. And I asked my friends, are you interested in tarot card readings or angel cards or crystals? And they were interested, all right, but they never delved into it like I did. It really, really had my interest as a child.
Looking back, was there a defining moment that you went through as a psychic and a psychic medium that you thought, now looking back, there's something deeper that you were meant to explore?
I think it was the moment where I gave birth to my son, Philip. I was in my late 20s and I had already got acquainted with a clairvoyant school because they taught me my methods and how to control, to activate telepathy and deactivate telepathy. And my teacher told me that once you're going to give birth to a very special gifted son, you're going to facilitate speeches with him and his abilities. And when she told me that, when I was 19 years old, I had absolutely no idea what she talked about. But later, when I was invited as a TEDx speaker, standing there on TED, on the stage of TED, which is an international stage, I think most people in America knows about TEDx. It was the first opportunity that landed in the lab where I knew, oh, now I understand why I had to give birth to Philip, who's a special gifted son. Now I completely understand why telepathy is part of it. And to people who are listening here, I'm an animal communicator, but I never chose the job as an animal communicator. I don't have horses. I don't have dogs. Me and my husband have a cat, but that's basically it. And I very much wish for a dog in my life, but because I'm always on the go, I don't have time enough for an animal, which I think it deserves. So it is kind of weird that I became the animal communicator. And I have spent so many years trying to figure out, why do I have to go on this path? Why do I have to practice telepathy? But when Philip, my son, came into my world and my life, I knew this is it, because he's a non-speaker. And I had to practice telepathy with him to be able to communicate with him and develop his abilities.
So, can you share a little bit about Philip and just who he is as a person? Because for listeners that are new, I mean, I've met him. He's a remarkable young man, and what amazing light he carries. But I'd love for you to share him with our listeners.
Yes. Philip is now 17 and a half years old on paper, but within his soul lies a 3 year old cognitively and a 100-year-old very wise man, a very, very wise soul. He's savant when it comes to math. But in other situations, he requires a lot of help, and he needs that help because he was born blind. I have trained him so that he has partial vision now, but he will always need help. He has a minor brain damage, and that's why parts of him is cognitively, air quote, behind. But in other ways, I'm just looking at Philip as Philip. And he is, as you have seen, because you met him, the happiest soul ever, the biggest empath ever. People in our city here in Denmark, where we are located, everyone knows Philip. You know, where we buy our vegetables, where we shop in the supermarket, everyone is saying, "Hi, Philip." And he waves at them like, "Hey," their names. And I think Philip thinks this is the most natural thing in the world, that everyone knows who he is, but they know who he is because they feel him. They feel his light. In our everyday, Philip goes to a special care school, and he's been there for 10 years. In our country, you can't, be in the school after 10 years. You need to move up to a bigger grade school, and we have another special school he needs to be moved into next year, and it's going to be one of the biggest situations ever in his life, because he has been in a very comfy, safe environment, and now he needs to get out and meet other children in a bigger, air quote, playground with less adults helping him. So it's going to be a very, very exciting and scary future ahead of Philip. But I'm crossing my fingers that he will win them over with his big heart and his smile.
Oh, he definitely will. That's without a doubt. He just is the most, he radiates love and is the most
Mm.
happy person I have ever met. It was just such a remarkable experience spending, even though the time was brief, that time with him, because you can
Mm.
see his soul. I mean, they would call him gifted in some ways, but he is highly gifted in many ways.
Yes, yes. And ever since he was a toddler, he told me with those short sentences he can make verbally. He said, Luna. And I was looking in the room and there were no one in there. And I knew he could see deceased people and spirits. And when I tuned in, and as his mother, even though I'm talented and I'm gifted, I still have to activate my clairvoyance skills or telepathic skills, tune in. And there I saw a girl sitting there communicating with my son. And I asked her, "Do you have to be here? And it's okay if you are, keeping my son company, but if you disturb him in his sleep, I need to get rid of you. I need to help you cross over to another dimension, which is called heaven." And she said, "I won't disturb him when he's asleep." And I told her, "Okay, you can stay." And I, as the telepath clairvoyant, need to shut down and deactivate all these abilities. But when I look at Philip, he never needs to activate or deactivate anything. He is 100% telepathic 24/7.
I wonder how that experience is for him because he's just so open. He's
Mm.
seeing so much, communicating with so much. And in our very limited view as people, we would probably go, how much is he really communicating or seeing? But he really does just comprehend, and he's so gifted in so many ways.
Thank you so much. And I think for many, many neurodivergent children, their parents can recognize these words because it's so true. Our children take in everything unfiltered, and that's why it's difficult to be around many people, even sensitive, air quote, sensitive people know this emotion of, who I experience anxiety in social gatherings, or it's difficult for me to go on the metro or take a plane to a different country. It requires a lot. But the good part of all this with Philip is he's kind of my little detector. I always know the state of which people are in because I'm just looking at Philip, and he reacts immediately when he knows a person is a truly empathetic person and calm and caring, or if they have another agenda, he reacts to it.
I am just curious, how was embracing your gifts as a psychic medium, telepath, and as a mother when Philip was born? How did that change your understanding of yourself and your life purpose?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I truly understand that this, and I accepted that this was a life mission I had, because prior I felt my abilities were a burden, to be honest, because when you sense everything in a room, when you meet other people and you are in those deep emotions, sorrows, worries, angst all the time, it's heavy. And I think many priests, psychologists, psychiatrists, other alternative practitioners know what I mean when I say this. And I love my work. Don't misunderstand that, please, because I do love helping people. But you have to raise the vibration for other souls all the time to be able to help them. So from time to time, when I felt the skepticism was too hard on me, or I experienced there weren't room enough to worry about my own personal stuff when I worked, I felt from time to time it was a burden. But when Philip entered my world, I knew this isn't a burden. This is a life mission. Because in that second, I understood Philip is a nonverbal child. Philip can't see all these tools that was required to help Philip. I could kind of copy them into the animal kingdom and help the equine industry and the canine industry with a lot of those methods I already helped Philip with. And I saw, oh my goodness, it worked. And then I wrote books about them to dog owners and horse owners first, because I knew I have to wait a little bit with the children. I don't think the world is ready for it. But last year, I finally had the courage to come out with all these methods, speaking openly about spiritual children. And this took me 10 or 15 years to figure out, how do I put all this knowledge down into a book which is published in Denmark where I live, and it's coming to the rest of the world. But how do I share all this knowledge without debating too much with the psychiatrists and the medical and the pharmaceutical part of the industry here? And I think I have succeeded with it. And thank God to being part of such a huge success as the telepathy tapes have been already. It helped me quite a bit too.
Well, I mean, there's so much that I can just, from your story and from knowing you that you have gathered from Philip's journey and how that has really shaped your own. It seems that this was something that was predestined to be, because a lot of times people who are psychic or psychic medium and now telepath is something that we're hearing more about, that they can kind of lose their way if they don't have a grounding rod.
Mm. Oh, definitely. And Philip always makes me stay grounded. I share our little son with the dad. We are no longer together. We got divorced, but I share him so that I have my son for 2 weeks, and then he wants to go to see his dad, of course, for 2 weeks. And I've always complimented that and helped Philip doing that, so he's not switching between our homes like 1 week and 1 week and 1 week and 1 week. I wouldn't even be able to manage changing my suitcase and my hotel room every other week. So when I have Philip, my life looks very stable, very autistic friendly. I'm saying that with a smile, and very structured. But when I don't have Philip, I truly work like 24/7, and I'm allowed doing that. And he gives me the opportunity of doing that because we have built the life of which we have built. But when I have him by my side, I feel very grounded. I feel very connected with myself, with him, with my spirituality, he's just my healer, and he makes me remember what is important in life, because I know I only have him on loan. I don't own my child. None of us do. They grow up becoming independent. And even though Philip is neurodivergent and will need a lot of help in the future, he's still his own little Philip. He's still his individual 17-year-old spirit. And I need to let go and help. My biggest job is basically to help himself and trust him that he can pick up stuff, or he can figure out where to go, even though he can't see where he's going. That's my biggest task in life. So, yeah, he helps me definitely to stay grounded.
I think your story is so encouraging for families of neurodivergent children that maybe don't understand just the gifts that they bring. Because a lot of times when people have a neurodivergent child, not all the times, but sometimes I think people are focused on the things they can't do as opposed to the things that they excel at.
I think that's so true, because I help so many families who are struggling against the system, struggling to be understood, struggling with the psychiatrist, with the system in general. And I am too. It's been 17 long years, and I'm tired as well in the system. But when I'm looking at my son, it makes sense, and I wouldn't change him in the world for any other child. If the universe asked me if you could make a do-over and you could have an air quote neurotypical son, would you change him for Philip? Never. I would never change him for anything in the world. Because I got Philip, I made the decision of practicing telepathy full time. I would never have done that if it wasn't for Philip. And then I became a brand in Europe. Telepathy and animal telepathy became a thing where I live. Later, it became more renowned who I was when it came to clairvoyance, therapy, telepathy in general. And this is all thanks to Philip. So my job is to kind of clear the road for Philip. Instead of making him adapt to the society or to the world, I have to reverse it and make the world adapt to my son, Philip, instead. And that's a life mission. It's hard work, but instead of trying to fight domestically with my own son, I'm fighting where I'm supposed to fight. And that is changing the world for my son and all these children out there who's like Philip.
Yes, they all require that we look at life in a new way. And with everything going on in the world, I would say that is a very positive thing.
I do think it's a positive thing in every single country in this world. We have an increased amount of numbers when it comes to diagnosed children now. That's opens for another debate we don't have to take here on your show, but it's pretty interesting. Why do we have more and more children with diagnoses? I have had the privilege because I have the name I have here in my country to get into our White House and debate this in front of the politicians here because they are doubting it themselves too. And I have one opinion in there when I have to talk about that to people who can get the systematic help for people and their families. But I have my own agenda as a spiritual mom. And and what I believe in is the fact that when I see this increased amount of children coming at us with all this empathy, all this love, all these sensitive ways of being in the world. They're teaching every single person around them about how to stay connected to themselves. They are forcing us, air quote, forcing us to be connected with love and humanity. So for me, in my perspective, when we have such a huge wave of these brilliant young children coming in here to the world, we need them. We need them in this world to connect with empathy and love.
One of the things that I want to touch on with you that I don't think we've talked about before is the fact that you are also a licensed therapist. When did you choose to become a licensed therapist, and how has that journey been?
Oh, I think that most people who start to become an alternative practitioner will be very poor because you're never going to be tired of learning more and learning more. More and more doors is going to open. So when I was done as a clairvoyant, I already back then saw and an animal communicator that I needed to learn more skills to be able to help the human beings. So even though animals were the gateway in, I knew that if I can't help the animal owners to change things, nothing is going to happen. So I went on taking a 4-year-old education and became a licensed therapist. And I was the youngest therapist they had ever seen. I barely came in. I had a full-time job besides of studying at the therapy school. So I was truly burning my lights on both ends here. But it was very, very interesting. Those 4 years, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about other people and how to help them, basically. And when I figured out how to connect clairvoyance and telepathy with therapy, I understood that this was kind of a superpower. So when my clients can't come up with the answer, or they don't know, or they're unaware of traumatic things or explanations in themselves, I just tune in as a clairvoyant instead. Or when I help a family with a neurodivergent child who's a non-speaker, and I would very much like to hear the children saying in things, I can just activate telepathy, and I ask the children as well, and I take these informations into the therapeutic session and debate it with the parents. And that's how my success rate is pretty high and pretty good, because usually here in Europe you often go to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist many times, and I we need them in the world. They have other ways and other methods of helping their clients out there. And when I help my clients, we have solved the issues within the first or second session because I'm telepathic.
Being able to really communicate in a way that affects somebody's mind, body, and spirit, I think is a
Mm.
piece that we've been missing as as humanity for a little while, and to be able to bring all that together builds so much credibility in the work that you do because the animals or non-divergent children or deceased loved ones or spirit may come and speak with you, but it sounds like a lot of times you're not just healing one individual, you're healing a whole family unit.
Yes, I am. And I think it is such a privilege to observe all these things I do during my sessions. My clients will hear me say all the time, I'm sorry, can I be honest? Is it okay? Am I allowed, to enter this private space of yours? Because when a client, let's say a dog owner, is booking a session with me, they have absolutely no idea what the animals know about the family members, each and every single person in the family. I can take one example with a horse. I helped a mother and a daughter just before euthanizing their horse some years ago. And they wanted me to become the interpreter to say goodbye to this horse just before putting it down. And it was such a privilege and such an honor. And when I was standing there, the mother just thought, I'm going to pass on all these messages to my loved gelding, and then we are at peace and we can put him down. But passed on all these sentences to the gelding, it had something to say back to them. And one of these sentences was to the daughter. And I remember he said, it's important for you to be at peace, to figure out if you want to be a veterinarian or if you want to be studying as a physiotherapist. So you need to figure it out. And I remember it because I thought, how can a horse know that he's in doubt between two educations and what they're called? How can a horse know that? This was a huge epiphany for me. And I told this to the daughter. She bawled, she bursted into tears and said, how can my horse know that? And the horse said, send me the image of, because I read your thoughts all the time. I don't know what that means being a physiotherapist, but I pick up on the word and I send it to Ditte. And I, as Ditte, know what a physiotherapist was. The horse knew what a veterinarian was. So I could, deliver that message to the girl. And that is just one fun example, not fun because it was very touching, but one very special moment of as an example of how clever these animals are. So of course, when we take in dogs, cats, budgies, horses into our lives, they have an opinion of their family members, of each and every single family member.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that they also, from like a spiritual level, just know us so deeply. A lot of times it takes us to kind of figure out that part ourselves.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it resonates with the human beings when being told from the animal, but they don't think about it. It could be examples such as when they book me, the family book me, they interpret their animal has a behavioral, air quote, behavioral issue because it has separation anxiety. So fix it, please, Didi. Will you help us? But what they never thought of was the dynamic in the family. And they had one girl running in and out, another bonus child coming in and out, no structure in this household that confuses the animal or the dog so that it has a reaction. And the reaction is called separation anxiety. But when we can build more structure and make more predictive life forms or relations in the extent that it's possible, the dog calms down, and then we removed separation anxiety.
That's such a big piece. And to be able to really dive into these aspects of what people and animals are feeling and thinking, that must really give the people you work with a lot of peace because they're able to kind of navigate situations where otherwise they'd be very confused.
It does. It truly does, regardless if it's their children, if it's their animals. And I don't mention this on my website, but actually, I don't have any clients coming into my store or my sessions who's not going to burst into tears. It is such an overwhelming experience to hear what is in there, what does my child have to say here, or the opinions from their animals, and they're very profound. They're very deep, very deeper, much deeper than they think, because it could be everything from an animal picking up on their angst, their anxiety. Where did that origin from? What kind of advice do they have to the animal owner? That is pretty deep. And the animal owner never saw that coming. And then they get overwhelmed.
Well, especially with your clinical background of being a licensed therapist to pull all of that together. I mean, what a blessing that is because there are many people out there that do psychic medium work and even some telepathy work, but they
Mm.
don't have that licensed therapist component. So while they could speak with spirit, what happened, it was like, are they able to communicate effectively to the actual person and their experience?
I think that it's so wonderful that there are so many practitioners out there helping animals and human beings. But when that is being said, it is a very huge responsibility we should take very seriously. And I'm always teaching my students about ethics and high morality when it comes to this ability, because with this ability comes a very huge responsibility. The responsibility of people are in grief. Some people are desperate. Some people are vulnerable when they seek alternative practitioners. And even though we can, and I think a lot of my colleagues out there in the world can easily pick up on sentences and messages from the other side or from an animal or from a neurodivergent child. But what do we do? We need to pick, what do we do after we have delivered it? We need to be able to pick them up as well. So when I have an example like the horse we needed to put down, when I was standing there with the mother and the daughter, and they were in such a grief, I were able to help them therapeutically and just be there while they're grieving and help them and make it a little bit easier and make room for that grief. And I was telepathic with the horse, and that requires a lot. I need a lot of energy coming in my system to be able to help during such a session. And that's why I don't have many sessions during a day, because I get really exhausted, but it's worth all my energy and all my time.
How would you describe a telepathic, psychic, or nonverbal communication? How does that feel like to you when it's happening?
Mm. Well, it feels like I'm becoming my air quote client. I'm not just understanding my client, I become the client. And a lot of my customers or clients out there, when they book me and they ask me, can you speak with my dog as an example, or my cat? I become the animal. And they're really laughing at me because they can definitely tell that I change. My voice change, my physicality change, my posture change, my way of speaking changes. The sentences I use is something they hear themselves say in the home. And for me as Ditte, as the animal communicator, whatever I speak openly about makes no sense at all. Nothing makes sense. But yeah, because I understand that it's a relational problem or this is a personality thing. But when I hear sentences I have never heard before, it's not making sense in my world, but it makes sense to them. And that's the most important thing. Usually, when I'm telepathic with an animal, I look into their eyes and then I suddenly receive thoughts into my own head. And that thought sounds like the tone of my own voice. I all of a suddenly observe images in front of my inner eyes, and it seems like flashes or snippets of short clips of a movie I have to grab and figure out what was that? That was a bowl. That was a park. That was the veterinarian. That was a left shoulder. What is this? And my job as the telepath is to keep asking questions to make an essence and a story out of it. And then we have the cleared sentience as well. I need to be very empathetic to figure out, do we like the ball? Do we like the park? Do we like the veterinarian? Do we have pain issues on that left shoulders or not? And what do we need to prevent a pain experience, as an example? And I have to gather all these informations and make sentences out of it so that the human being on the other end understands what I'm saying.
That is a lot to put together, especially when you're not realizing, like, you get a sense of a ballpark or a shoulder or all these things. Like, how
Mhm.
does it even come together? I would have a hard time putting that all together.
It is difficult, and that's why when I teach telepathy, I teach them about structure over and over and over again. Because as a newbie, many of my students, in the first experience they have with animal telepathy, they are leaving it up to the animal to open the debate and talk to them. So they are sitting there being quiet, closing their eyes, and all of a sudden they hear a voice or tone in their head that says, I don't like my food. Oh, and then they know, oh, something about the food, but that is not very specific, is it, as a customer or a client? I would think if I were the dog's parent, what's wrong with the food? Is it sick? Do we have allergies? So I am trying to do my best to teach my students, wait a little bit with the problems because we don't want to, worry the animal owners. We need them to feel comfortable first. We need to have a completely normal conversation, and every conversation I have in my life starts with, hello, my name is Ditte. What is your name? And who are you? That's how we start.
Oh my goodness, that's such an amazing just level of giftedness that you have that you bring all of this together. And I always love talking about Phillips. I wanted to kind of toggle back to him for a minute. As Philip's mother, how has this experience, the experience of being his mother, strengthened your abilities?
I trust myself 1000%. Becoming a mother of Philip feels like I got superpowers I had no idea I had. I think I'm a Black Panther or a lion when it comes to clearing the road for Philip, not being aggressive or angry at the system or at people, but being truly protective. And in that power lies trusting my own intuition 1000%. So I never, ever doubt my intuition after I became a mom to Philip.
That's such a big piece because you hear about people, they'll get intuition, little hits here and there. And a lot of times, I don't know if it's because society has told us, oh, that's something that's not normal, or maybe they get scared. But a lot of times people they'll get these blessings and kind of chalk them up as something else. So, how do you stay so grounded in the information that you get?
I think it's because I know that I'm just a channel. I know that I don't have to understand what is coming through me. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have the solutions for my clients. I ask them because they have the solutions themselves, regardless if it's cats, dogs, budgies, horses, or children. They know what they need, or their systems or the spirits know what they need. And I trust that. So I have to remove my ego. And when I remove my ego and I'm just light or a channel, I completely trust that I'm grounded in that moment because I never dictate to my clients what should be best for them because I who am I to judge? I don't know. If I was to judge them, I would be able to project. And if I project on my clients, I never left my ego. Then I'm in there in the conversation. And if I'm in there and I project on my clients, I would be able to fail. I would be able to tell them something that weren't theirs, but mine.
I think that's what you teach your students about that strong ethics. Because I
Mm.
would wonder, do you ever get information and you have to ask, am I supposed to share this?
Yeah, I get a lot of informations and I know when to uh to be honest, keep my mouth shut. And when it's time to go into that topic, and especially when I do my live events, there there I have people, because when I do my live events, I'm a telepath as well. So people who are lucky will be picked out, and I will practice telepathy with their animals or children at other events. And I always know this is not for all the other guests or participants to hear this. This is way too private. And then I just never mention it. Or I'm telling them, you know what, I get other informations right now, but this is pretty private. So I think I'm just going to send you an email with the rest of it. And in those situations where I'm one on one with a client and I know this is not going to be beneficial for her to hear this because I feel it's not going to be beneficial for her, I'm never mentioning it. It could be, did you know your husband is cheating? Or have you considered that your spouse is drinking, alcohol more than you think? What good would may come out of that? I'm not God, I shouldn't intervene in that. I could ask her, so what will it take? Or I could ask the universe, if it's a clairvoyant session, what does my client need to feel more safe or comfortable and strong in her relationship? That is interesting.
Oh, I like how you have that positive viewpoint because it's all about helping and serving the people, the animals, the children that are in front of you.
Yes, it is. And being part of, and thank you for saying that, being part of the equine industry, and I'm sorry I'm calling it industry. Some people would be offended by it because it's a sport, but it's also an industry because we sell horses, and we train them to become of more value to people to sell them again. So that's an industry. And when I have to help the horses, I know the gateway to help the horses is the human being. So I have to disregard when I watch them being pretty tough with a whip, or they're kicking them a little bit too much. I'm always being polite and I'm telling them, you know what, when I'm here, will you please stop doing that? But I'm not judging them for doing it. I'm asking the horse, what kind of effect does this have, being kicked or being whipped too much? And what do you need? How can we help her to stop whipping you or kicking you? That's my entrance.
That really looks at it in a new perspective. And I found out something recently. We had a talk not too long ago, just a private conversation, and I was pretty blown away by this. You talked about the movie Money Heist. And I would love for you to share with us how you even got involved in that and what that looked like, because I find that so remarkable.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. A couple of years ago during COVID, I was being contacted by a Danish TV production company, and they told me if that they were going to film for another big series. I didn't know it was Money Heist, also called La Casa de Papel, that went on Netflix. It was a huge, huge success there. And they asked me, "Can you cast a Grand Dane or Big Dane, a dog?" And I told them yes, but I didn't know the movie set. I didn't know how many people were at the set. I just knew this dog needs to be able to be there on set. And I asked on my social media, "Hey, I'm casting a Great Dane for something in television, send me some pictures." And I got flooded with pictures with Great Danes, and I tuned in on all these Great Danes, and I felt this is sensitive, this is pretty dominant, or this is going to be an amazing dog, this can handle being on set. And I gathered 5 Great Danes, emailed it to the Danish company, and they forwarded it to Netflix. And then they said, "All right, you did such a great job. The TV director would like to communicate with you on WhatsApp and get my phone number." And then I communicated with him and talked to him, and I understood this was Money Heist, and they were coming to Copenhagen to film one of the seasons, because on Money Heist they film it in different parts of the world, and Denmark was one of them. And I got pretty excited because was a huge fan of their show. And they said, we would like to do 7 scenes with this Great Dane, and we would like you to be there so that everything will run out smoothly when we come to Denmark. And then we came to the set and the date. They flew in with private jets. I came to Copenhagen with this dog. I've been training for the last 3-4 months to practice those 7 scenes. And one of the actors were to take this dog for a walk in a park. A Great Dane is such a big dog, so it feels like walking with a little pony. And it was too strong in her hands. So she said, I refuse to work with this dog. So the director said, you need to find another dog. This was the day before they had to record. And I was going, oh, Jesus Christ, what can I do? How can I find a new dog that looks like the first dog? I don't have 3 or 4 months now to practice with the dog. And I came up with a solution. We're gonna take this Great Dane's brother because they look like the same, you know. Then I had to train the dog, be telepathic 24 hours before being on set. And when I got there the next morning, like 6 a.m., I went to Copenhagen with a dog I barely knew. They told me, you know what, Ditte, we know this is quite a task here. So just to be sure, we want you in the series. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm not an actor. I don't want to be part of it. I'm the dog trainer. And they said, no, we want you in the series. So that was my tiny, tiny, tiny contribution to Money Heists.
Well, I love the fact that you were working telepathically with this dog on set in order for the dog to also do the requirements that it needed because you had such a short window.
Yeah, it was 12 hard hours for me, and I don't think that the actors ever figured out that I was being telepathic. I think they thought this is a very well trained dog. This is a very polite dog. I remember one scene, they had a kissing scene. I remember the actor is called Berlin in the series, and he needed to kiss the woman he was very much in love with. We were on a boat in Copenhagen, and the dog, I just shut off telepathy just for a few seconds because I thought, I'm going to take a break. They are kissing. Everything is good. The dog is lying there next to me and relaxing. And when I shut off the telepathy and the contact with the dog, it ran at them and stood up on the hind leg and kissed both of the actors on the boat. And I remember everyone on the boat were laughing out loud. Of course, they cut out the scene, and I laughed as well. And I knew I can never slip. I can never not be telepathic with this dog. I need to stay tuned for 12 hours straight to make it perform and do the scenes.
Otherwise, he wants to be part of the kissing scene.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, this was pretty fun.
Well, and so let's talk about, I know you talk about the energy that comes through that you work with. Where does this energy come from?
When I'm a clairvoyant or a medium, the energy comes from the other side. The other side is another dimension I don't even understand, because I don't think my brain can comprehend what happens when we die over there. I understand as a medium that we have life after death and that souls enter another dimensions over there that I, as the medium, have access to. That I understand. When I'm telepathic, the information comes from the animal I'm helping or the child I'm helping. So I don't, that's the difference between clairvoyance, mediumship, or telepathy. With telepathy, it's only me and the client that is exchanging information back and forward non-verbally. But when I'm clairvoyant or a medium, I have a third party or other dimensions helping me, such as guardians, spirit guides, or angels.
Well, I love how you work with the highest possible energy that's there. Because I think some people are like, well, where does this energy come from? And it could be the universe, God, Father, however people identify that. But I know we've had talks about that, and you work with the highest energy.
Yeah, I do. And I think it is such an honor to be able to receive all this energy inside of myself. And I always have the purest intention before I go to work. And I also pray to the universe, can I have a little bit of that energy to myself so that I'm healed every single time I open up my channel?
I think that that's a really important piece because you're moving so much energy through you to ask for a blessing for yourself because you're also blessing the people and the animals and the children and really the entire area that you're working in.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I am. And I think that that healing and spiritual abilities are pretty underrated when it comes to what we can do with these abilities. But I think we are into a new paradigm shift now. I think that people are being more open to um alternative practitioners and that they can help. Here in Europe, it took them years to accept acupuncture. And now acupuncture is an accepted part of the government here where I live. So when we have people giving birth to children, they use acupuncture as a pain substance in the hospitals here. Now,
I love to hear how science catches up with what ancient traditions and spirit has always told us.
yeah. Yeah, and they better because I think that in the paradigm shift, underneath that is a fundamental truth that many people are aware of. And I think a lot of people have feared getting out of the air quote closet, the spiritual closet, and tell other people, well, I have done tarot cards or I'm interested in angels too. But they never dared speaking openly about it in the world. And they do now in a bigger extent.
Thank goodness for that. You know?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I have to really congratulate you too, because I understand that your talk that you're doing tonight, Ditte Young Talks, is sold out. So congratulations. Can you tell us about it?
Thank you. It was an idea I had many, many years ago because my waiting list was so big. So I knew if I can help the majority of people at one time, what can I create to help them? And then I created Ditte Young Talks, which is a live event online. Everybody can, purchase a ticket, not now because it's sold out. But this year I had it every month. Next year, I think I will have it like three, four times during 2026. And people can come in and meet me. And they can bring in a photo with their animal. And if they get picked out randomly, because it's the animals who chooses me in there, I practice telepathy or, in front of all these participants. And often these animals that are being picked out have difficulties the other participants also have. So it makes sense why they're being picked out.
I know we had a discussion about that recently where you're in a group setting, and I find it so fascinating that you'll have like 10, 20, 30 people that are having the same exact issue. So it's so fascinating that you'll have one animal come and connect with you or one person come and connect with you, and it's addressing that issue for so many other people.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the law of attraction. I do believe that equal attracts equal. So when I can only facilitate this room for them, but I think people are coming in from all over the world and they get attracted by this specific date because they know or they feel I have to be there. Otherwise I would see the same participants over and over and over again, but I don't always see that pattern. I see different people coming in and out and they get attracted by that date and by that light on that date I'm sending out. And then by coincidence or not, they have the same experience, and that could be experience problems such as health concerns, and that is the biggest topic on that day. Or it could be aggressive towards other dogs, and that's the big topic on that day. And then I speak about it.
Oh, I just love it. Well, I've got my ticket for the next one, and I cannot wait for that. I'm going to be in the one tonight, have my ticket for the next one. So I would suggest that people go and sign up for that pretty soon because Those sell out pretty quick.
Yeah, they do. I would love to see you in there, and it's on my website, ditteyoung.com. And it's for everyone. And I've tried my best to have a variety of services for different ratings so that everyone can have a chance to meet me. And Ditte Young Talks is an opportunity for everyone.
What do you find the most fulfilling about your work?
I think it is making a difference every single day. You know, my husband always laugh at me and he says, if everybody was a fly on the wall, honey, you are never bored. No day seems like the other day. You have different clients coming in, different problematic situations, behavioral issues. Then you have children, then you have cats, then you had a horse. Now you're in a stall. The next day, you're sitting in somebody's couch in their home, helping them with their teenagers. It's so profound. It's so different. It's so it's so mind blowing for myself. So I have to pinch my arm. Is this work? Is this work? And I get to facilitate podcast shows, Ditte Young Talks, being a speaker on different shows. It's such a privilege. I think I'm being helped from above. Otherwise, they would never give me all of these amazing opportunities I have.
Well, and I know there are so many more that you can't talk about that's coming up this next year. Some very exciting stuff. But one thing you can share about with us is your upcoming book. And I'm so excited about that.
Me too. I have written 4 books so far, and they are out in Europe. And a lot of people have asked me, can you get it translated to English, of course? And I finally did. And it's been hard work and it's been a fun process. And um, we figured out what kind of book we needed to begin with. And I felt it needed to be What the Horse Whispers, because this is the first book that speaks about me as a telepath and my journey as a telepath and an animal communicator. And even though it has a horse and me on, the book cover, it's for all animal lovers.
I love that. Well, and so where can people go? Because I know everyone wants to not only sign up for the next Ditte Young Talks, but also to listen to your TEDx talks and your telepathy tape interviews and see all of the other amazing work you've done. But you also have, which I'm always so fascinated about, the online courses that you do so people can start developing their own telepathy and intuition and psychic abilities.
Yeah, I'm so proud of the little universe I've made so far because creating online courses, even though they're pre-recorded and master classes where they can meet me on a live Q&A, but they're pre-recorded, gives me an opportunity to spread these methods out for a fair amount of money so that everyone can, keep up with the ratings and the prices here. And I just want to share knowledge all the time. So I have built a universe packed with online courses for dogs, online courses for horse lovers, online courses for spiritual interested people. And they can find me on ditteyoung.com. But all these other interviews I've made are primarily on YouTube, the channel YouTube. I just Google my name basically, and you'll find me on shows such as Marianne, the telepathy tapes, and TEDx.
Well, Didi, you're such an inspiration and one of the people that I just admire. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, DT. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about a psychic medium's life journey. Make sure to visit her website at ditteyoung.com. That's DITTE young.com for more information and to be part of her community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.